Hi everybody, welcome to Funday Friday. It's Friday afternoon for most of you guys, particularly in America, so I thought this would be a great time to have our webinar or our YouTube live. So welcome, if you're here, welcome. So today we're going to have a look at something called worksheets. Worksheets are how we report things in Vectorworks. So the first thing I'd like to cover is there's some simple things about what are the different uses of worksheets, why do we use them, and then we're going to go into how do we create them, what the different techniques are. So first of all, I'd like to cover the reasons I use worksheets. In this project, you can see that I've got a worksheet here. You may not know it's a worksheet, but you can see I've got a list of drawings. And this is a really cool list of drawings because it captures not just the drawing number, but it captures the drawing name, and it also captures the latest revision, which means that whenever I publish these set of drawings, the revision will always be the up-to-date revision on the drawings. You'll also notice that it's quite a long list and that I had to split it into two parts. And so what I've done is I've actually said to Vectorworks, well, when you get to, I think it's 39, stop reporting this. And if you're above 39, 40 and above, I'd like you to report the rest over here. So it does capture both. So I've got two lists here and it captures all of my drawings, and that makes it really cool. So I think that's a really neat trick for it. Now I've got a couple of saved ones here, so that's the cover sheet. Number 2 is my site plan. So in this particular case, the council required, or the local building authority required some information. I'll get to that in a second. But over here, I always use a worksheet to report this kind of information. So this is a worksheet, and I've got it set up so that some of this information is typed in, like their legal name, description, and so on. So let's just get rid of some of the stuff here. I don't really want that. So it's the address gotten rid of. And I can close that, and there it is. So there's the address there. And we'll just get rid of that as well. So we've got this thing that gives us our legal description of the project. Then we've got our town planning authorities. We've got our front yard requirements. This is all typed in, and I feed this information in. But then we get into areas like this where the requirement is to provide a certain amount or a certain percentage of landscape area. And so we can create a worksheet that'll actually look for this information. And that's a really handy thing. I put that on nearly every project I'm working on because it reminds me what information to fill in. And the worksheet is, let's have a look at our project. Here's our worksheet here. I've got a bunch of worksheets. These are all the worksheets that I've got in this project. And you can see there's an awful lot of them because I use them for a lot of things. Things like rainwater discharge, calculating the size of downpipes, downspouts, and so on. So this is another area here where the council really was keen on me covering a specific thing. And this is to cover how much vegetation I'm providing. Well, they wanted to know what the permeable paving area was. And so there's areas like this which are permeable paving. And because Vectorworks will look at objects and report the areas of objects, we can then get Vectorworks to look for objects in the drawing and report the areas. Very cool. Not only do we get it to report the areas, we can also get it to report things like the coverage. So that's the allowable site coverage. That's the gross area of the building. This is my site area, 648 square meters. And so Vectorworks will do the calculation of one divided by the other and give us the answer. In this particular situation, the maximum building coverage was 50%, and I'm proving that we are well under that 50%. In this case, I've got a framing plan, and I've got windows, and I've got doors, and particularly the doors and windows need to have their lintel sizes specified. So it's the plan is quite busy, so specifying the lintel here with all this information seemed to me just a little bit busy. So I created a worksheet here that reports the sizes of all my lintels on this plan. And the great thing about this is that this information is actually attached to the windows themselves, so I can report that information in lots of different ways. If we look at the elevations, I've got some worksheets here. This one is my risk matrix calculator, something I need to do, and it allows me to present this information in exactly the same way that it's required, and it will count up the risk factor for each elevation. And I've got a series of these, and all I need to do is to put in the information that's correct, and it will report for me. This is slightly different. This is to calculate my energy use, what we call the H1 calculations, or the building code H1 use of energy. And this tells, well, this information here I collect from the elevation, and it gives me a total area of the wall, and then it gives me my north glazing, and it has to be done wall by wall. So instead of using the actual wall area from Vectorworks, which I could do, I could actually get Vectorworks to report the size of each wall, the hole in each wall, and give me the gross and the net area of the wall. Instead of doing that, because of the code or because of the method I'm using, I need to elevate the building and do the wall calculations. Now, because of that, I need to find a way to capture them. So what I did was I drew a series of polygons on different colors, and then this one here will actually capture all of the walls and window areas in this wall elevation and give me the area. Now, my north elevation, I'm allowed, there's not a maximum, but overall I'm allowed a maximum of 30%. But you can see here I'm under that because I've captured all of those walls. I'm 23%, so it's all right for me to use this method. This tells me the north wall, that's the west wall. Down here there's an east wall on another drawing. I've got my east and south walls, and as long as those walls don't have very many windows, I'll be okay with this method of presenting my energy use, my insulation calculations. So this is something I use. Now, one of the great tricks with these worksheets is that you can then grab them and move them from one project to the next. They appear in the resource manager, so they're here. So if I wanted to move one of these from one file to the next, I could easily just grab hold of one of these, drag it, let go, and it's now going to copy that into this project, into that lesson. So they're really good and they're really useful. So this is just a short explanation of why I use them. I find them really, really handy. They count up information. And when I publish the drawings, one of the publish options, let's just have a look here, file export options. Let's choose one of those. That's one of the big things. The reasons I like these worksheets is because it gives me the information. I know it works, and I don't have to think about whether they're doing the right thing. If I move the building, if I redraw something, I just need to update my worksheets and they'll be correct again. And I'll show you that in a second. So if there's any chats, it's like if you've got a question at the moment, now's the right time to write a chat and ask me a question, because now I'm going to get into showing you how to create worksheets. Okay, I don't see any chats at the moment, so let's carry on. So in this situation, I want to do a simple worksheet where I find the area of the site, I find the area of the house, and I divide one by the other to do my percentage of coverage. So what are we going to do? So first of all, I'm going to select my site. I'm going to give it a name. Now this is only one way to do it. So in Vectorworks, there's two main ways of creating your worksheets. You look for information on objects and do calculations, or you attach to the live information, you attach to the record of each object and get it to report those. And we'll do both of those techniques today. So I'm going to call this the site. So it's going to look for objects I'm going to look for an object called a site, and this is going to be my house. So I've got one object called a house, one object called a site, and now I can ask Vectorworks to create a worksheet and look for that. Now in this file there are none, so I'm going to create a new worksheet. This is going to be my site calculation, site area calculation. How many rows and how many columns do I want? Well, I think I only want about 5 rows, but I can always add more if I need them. And I need at least 2 columns. So I need the name and the area, so that's just 2 columns. And so there's my little area there. It's my little worksheet. Now, I know that if I hold down a key on the Macintosh, it's the Option key. It should be either the Alt or the Command key on a Windows machine. It does allow you to zoom that worksheet. If you can't find it, then you go to View, choose Zoom, and choose a zoom ratio that suits you. So since I'm going to be placing this on my drawing, I need something that tells me what this is. So let's type in that this is my site area calculation. Okay, now I actually don't like that font, so I'm going to change, and I'm going to format that cell to a different font. I like Tecton. So this is my Tecton font. 12 points going to be better. There we are. Let's do that again because I forgot to choose the bold. Bold, that's better. That one, I just need that one to be slightly bigger, so let's make that 14 point. That'll be nice. And I can also do things like, let's put a line underneath there. Let's format the cell, and we're going to do the border, and we're going to have a border across the bottom, and we can choose the line weight for that, so I can make it a heavy line if I want. And when I place this on the drawing, you'll see that information. So what's next? So I need to start looking for things. So I need the site area. And if I hit the tab key, I go across, and if I use the down arrow, I can go down. So that's my site area. So I need my building area. Hit the return key and you go down, and the percentage cover. And you can see I've got one cell too many. What I can do is go to this bottom corner and just bring that up. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Let's click on column B. It's a bit too wide, so I just look for this double-headed arrow here, and I can drag that back in. So my site area. So I need a formula. If you know Excel, you'll know that if you need a formula in Excel, you hit the equals key, gives you a formula. Now I need a formula. So let's insert a function. And we're looking for a function that'll help us find something to do with areas. So let's go area and see what we get. So area, now all I can see now are area things. So I got a base area. What's this? What does this one do? Returns the total area of 2D objects that meet the criteria. Well, these are 2D objects, and I just want the total area. That's great. We'll use that one. Now I need to find the criteria. I'm looking for a specific object for my site area. So what I can do is just click here, make sure my cursor's in the middle. Let's insert a criteria. Now if this comes up, it comes up because I've got an object selected. So I'm just going to go OK on that. Not OK, sorry. I just need to go custom. So custom, so what sort of things do we want to look for? This is our criteria area, and we can choose what type of objects we might want to look for. Now we can look for things based on their layer, their class, their type, their plane, but we can also look for things based on their name. And I named these objects, if you remember. And I like this button here because it presents all my named objects. Now if I've spelt site wrong, it'll present it with the wrong spelling, with the incorrect spelling. But it just means that I'm selecting exactly the object I want. So how many objects meet that criteria? Well, hopefully just one. You never know, but there we are. It says down the bottom, just one object matches the criteria that I've given here. Okay, let's click on the green tick, and that's my area and it's reporting in whatever units I've got it in. Let's just check that. So let's check that. What's my area? Oh, this must be in square feet. Now I don't know what area this is reporting in, so let's format our cell and let's choose the number format and let's choose dimension area so that it's totally clear to me what it's looking for. So it's found this area to a very high level of detail. If we go back to that now, I can't change the number of decimal points because that's controlled by my unit settings. Because I've told it to use the units, the area units, I need to go back, Vectorworks, File, Document Settings, Units. Now if we look here, my areas are in square feet to the nearest thousandth of a square foot. If I change that to 0.1, and then we'll recalculate this worksheet, you can see I've lost a lot of decimal points and it's down to 0.5 of a square foot. So that might be more meaningful. Now let's do the same here. Now I could go through the whole process. I could insert a function. I can find a function called area. Okay, I can insert my criteria and I can type in the name. Again, this comes up, and so I could do all that. But the other thing I can do is I can go right click, copy, right click, paste, and then I can change this from the word site. So just up here, it's just here. You can see the word site, and there's a single quote mark either end of the word site. So let's remove that, and we'll type in house, and then click on the green tick. Now it's really important when you do this that you don't lose the quote mark. If you lose one of those quote marks, it won't work. That quote mark is really important. That quote mark defines the word house as something to look for, as a name to look for. And without that, it won't work. So, what's next? Let's do our percentage cover. Now the percentage cover, it's also a formula, so we need to put that in. And we need to have that number divided by that number. And it's using the slash. Click on the green tick and I get this number. So 0.196. But actually this would be much better if it was a percentage. So let's format our cell again. And we'll make that a percentage. With, I often choose 0 decimal points. You might want to have 1 or 2. 19.6 cover. Now you could make this, you could extend this down and you could have things like required cover. And the required cover was 50%, and it means I'm okay. So let's get rid of some of those cells I don't want. So we've got that. I think this would be nicer if I put a border around this part of it here. So I'm going to go up to format my cells, border, and I want to have an outline. Let's give it a line there. Let's give it an outline. Okay. And how's that? So this one's still got a line underneath it by the look of it. Let's put it on the drawing and we'll have a look. So this is what we do. I often do things like give that a cell. Let's color it in. We've got patterns we can put in there. We can give it a solid pattern. Or you might want to give it a hatch or just none. Okay, we've done our work. Where's it gone? I've closed the worksheet window. Now the thing's vanished. What are we going to do? We need to find that information and bring it back in. So where do we find it? Well, it's in the resource manager. Now I've set the resource manager to only look for worksheets. If I look for all resources, I might get lost with this object in amongst other things, particularly if you go to somewhere like this, where there's lots and lots of resources. Changing this to worksheets only can be really useful if you just want to focus on looking for one particular type of thing. How do I get this into my drawing? drag it, let go, and it's there. The other option is you can go right click and you can say worksheet on drawing, and it will place on the drawing, but my drag and drop method just means that I've got more control over it. So let's right click, we'll open that. When you open it, you can edit it, but when you do open it, you'll notice that you can't see the information inside. You just get this cross. So let's have a look. We've got some preferences that we can look at. This one here, show grid. I want to get rid of the grid. How's that? Is that any better when I close that? Is that any easier for people to read? And maybe it is. So sometimes that's what I do, is start to remove some of that information. You're allowed to be graphic with this. You're allowed to put colors behind. You're allowed to change the font. You can make it easy to see, because maybe the most important thing is that number there. So double click to open it. Here we're going to format the cell. I'm going to make that, maybe make that bold, more bold, make it slightly bigger, make it a different font so that people can see it, stands out. You might want to put an underline under that, so we could format that again, and we can do the border, we can put a bottom. Maybe for this one we put an outline just around that cell and we make it heavy so that the people who need to see it can see it easily. Where's my border gone? Let's do that again. I'm going to do all of them. So let's format those cells. Let's put a outline around all of them. And when we close it, you'll see the results. So that's the start of worksheets. That's the easiest one for you to create, where you look for objects and you report those objects. Now, the great thing about this is if I change the size of my house, let's say the client says, you know, we want the house to be substantially bigger. Can you just make it all bigger for us? You redesign it, you get the new footprint, and you say to Vectorworks, okay, can you just, so I've right clicked, let's recalculate the selected worksheet, and you can see there's my percentage cover. Still okay, but it's just so quick to recalculate. So that's the first one. Are there any questions about that first method of creating worksheets? So don't forget to leave a chat. If you leave a chat, I'll answer your question. And let's move on. So that's the first method, where we just look for objects and we name them. Now there's some real limitations to naming objects, because if you were to look at all the windows, let's say for example you wanted to report each window, what the window size was, what the height of the window was, what its lintel size was, it would be a real hassle to name each window. What we need is a system that's a little bit more automated. So my next idea is to look at creating a report that finds all my windows and then reports those windows. So we're going to create a new worksheet, but we don't have to do it this way. We don't have to click here to create the worksheet, because we're going to create a report. So tools, reports, and let's create a report. Now some of these reports are so easy to make. We choose a pre-formatted report, we choose window. If there's a window one, we choose a window schedule, and it will create a window schedule for us. Now by choosing that one, it's created this report, which gives me my overall height, my overall width, the configuration, the shape, the top shape. It just gives me all the information that's attached to that window. Now that's a quick way to do it, but there are other ways. So I'm going to make a custom report. I'm going to make a report that looks for specific information. So the object type is a window. So that's easy. I'm going to turn these off because I don't want it to look anywhere other than my design layer. So now what we've got is we've got the object as a window. So it's going to look for every window that I've got, which is really cool. And then what's going to happen is we're going to ask it to report specific information. So we want the, now it depends whether you want the height or the width first. So I want the width first. So I'm going to start typing up in here, I want the width. Now there's lots of widths that are available, things like the sash, but I want that to be the width. Let's add that. Now what would also be really good is to have the ID, so I know which window is which. Now what I need is the ID prefix first. So it's got the W. Then I need the ID label. I want those to be at the top. ID prefix, ID label, then we've got the window width, then we want the window height. I want the window height. Now I've also used a user, a window has a user field, and I've used user field number 1 to record the lintel size. So let's add that one as well. So it's my user field 1. So I've got my window, got my label, width, height, user field 1. Now if I make a mistake, I can come back and change these. It's not a problem. So let's just go OK and see what we get. So ID prefix, I'm going to get rid of that label because I want to pull this as close as I can. So this is my number, this is my window number. I'm going number, and I'm going to bring that as close as I can as well. Now I might have a lot of windows, so I need to make sure I leave enough room to have 3 characters if I need to. So there's my width, there's my height, and there's my user field. And okay. Now maybe it would have been good for me to put the configuration in as well. So I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to go back to this one. I'm going to say delete because it's really quick to make the next one. So let's go back to reports. We're going to create a report. This time I'm going to name it window. Now I can't call it window schedule because I've already used that once. I'll call it my window report. So the object is a window. I'm not going to search within those areas. There, it's a window. So remember, we want our prefix. I better use ID, otherwise it's going to be a pain. So ID prefix, yep, add that. ID label, add that. Now we want the width. So we need the overall width, that one there. I need the overall height. Now the overall height. Do we need the height to the, it's the elevation? Elevation, that's what we want. We want the elevation as well. Now we're going to set the elevation at the sill. Maybe we need to tell the contractor that as well. And then the last thing we need, we need the configuration. So the configuration, what kind of window style is it? So that will give me that. So I'm going to put that, yeah, I can leave it there. And then the last thing I need is my lintel size, which is my user field number 1. Let's add that in. And then OK. And there's everything I want. So now I can start to edit this. Remember, I got rid of that last time, so we brought that across. We got our label. Bring that. We got our width, height, elevation. And just in case, we've set the elevation to the sill of the window. That's now clear. The configuration is fixed glass. None of these are doing anything special. They're all fixed glass. But this column here, I don't need. So I'm going to go back to that corner there. I'm going to pull that across to here. And now it's finished. Now I can format these, don't forget. So I can choose these. I could then go back to my format cells. Go back to the font. This wanted to be Tecton to match all my other stuff. So Tecton bold, better, because that Tecton font's very skinny. These areas here, we're going to format those cells as well. Tecton again, 12 point, bold, okay. So now there's a part I haven't mentioned yet. That's this area here, this row with the diamond. The row with the diamond's really valuable. It's known as the database header, and it's the thing that records all of the requirement for Vectorworks to report. Let me show you what I mean. Let's click on that cell there. So this area here is actually an instruction to Vectorworks to go look for specific information. And it's saying, go find the window, go find user field number 1, and give me that information. This one is asking for the configure. Let me just escape from that. This one is asking for the configuration. This one's asking for the elevation. This one's asking for the ID label. So if you do know or do learn how to use Vectorworks well, you can then start to correct these if you get them wrong. So for example, if I had that at user field 2, I might get nothing. So I've made a mistake. I know that should be user field 1. I can update that. Click on the green tick and it'll bring back all my information. So this is reporting information that I've typed into each window. So that, I think that's a great technique. Let's close that. We'll grab it from the resource manager. My window report, we'll put it here, and that's my window report. Slightly in the way, so I'll just push it over there. So what happens if I delete a window and then recalculate? So let's recalculate that one. So window 2 disappeared. Let's undo that, let's undo that. And we'll open this. So we've got here my windows, but they may look like they're random in their placement. The reason that they look like that is they're in the order that I placed them. So what if I click on this little arrow here and I choose to sort them ascending? Click OK. Now they're in order. And now if I delete one window, it will change. Now it should be that I can go to one of these objects here, like this window 8. Let's window 8 there. The width is 6 feet. Let's make it 2 feet, 24 inches. I've updated it here. You can see clearly I've updated it there. But look at the plan. The window's also adjusted on plan. Window 9 is a little bit too big, so that again needs to be 24 inches, and I've adjusted that one as well. Now it doesn't adjust the location of the window, but it certainly does adjust the size. So you can now go around the different windows. You could actually go through here and say that's 4 feet, 1200 millimeters. Oh, I made it too skinny. So that should have been 48. This one here is a bit skinny. Let's make that one 36 inches. And so you can now go around the plan and make adjustments to all of these. As you adjust this plan here, it might mean that you need to adjust your lintel size. So you can go and do that as well. So to me, this is a really cool trick because it's up to date with what you're doing at the moment. So if we move it, if we delete a window, this will delete. If we want to change something about the window, that will change. So these are all fixed glass at the moment. So I'm going to change this window to a awning hung window. And this one is also going to be an awning hung. So you can just click here, click on this little downturn arrow, make them a casement. Now you may not think that's doing much, but if we look at this in elevation, it should have been editing the elevation of those windows. I'm not sure what I've done with these windows. What's that got? That's my window. And it's now an awning window. And it might be that I've got some classes turned off, so I'll just turn everything on. And I may not have my indicators on, but that certainly has changed those windows. So that's the so this is the second type of worksheet that you can create. The first one was looking for objects and doing calculations. This is the one which does reporting of objects in your file. And this is the one that is so powerful. It does allow us to count things. So, for example, if you're a landscaper and you want to count your plants, it'll count all your plants for you. If you're an architect and you want to know, for example, like the windows we've done, if you want to use spaces, if you want to do a room finish schedule, I mean, everything that we want to report, we use a worksheet to do that. So don't forget, if you've got a question, just hit the comment. Let me know what's what we've got going on. If you want to chat, don't forget to type a message, and I'll answer your questions. So there's no questions about that. Everyone's happy about what I've done so far. So let's move on to the next part. So I think those are really powerful, this ability to do those reports. We come back here, that's open. So the database header row is talking about keeps a track of all the code, but it also tells you how many meet that criteria. So 11 are there, 11 are there, and so on. So I've got 11 windows in total. And so that's a way of reporting that kind of information. So here we are. Now what I've got here is I've got some landscaping type options. So these are hardscape objects. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to report these hardscape objects. Now it is possible to create a report. Now if anyone's downloaded my quick start to landscape, you'll know that I've created a report in that document, and that report shows all the plants and all the hardscapes in the file. And if you assign prices to your hardscape, then you can quickly make a quick budget. So for example, you might want to have you might have so much money to spend. That'll allow you to have so much area of hardscaping and so much area of landscaping, and it's really quick to do. I haven't got this open today, but if you really want me to show you that landscape, the quick start to landscape file, type me a message, let me know. Otherwise, I wasn't going to do it. So how are we going to count these objects here? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you how you can put reports together. Now I know that these might be discontinuous things. We've got the windows and the hardscapes. They're from two different professions. But let's get started anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a report. So tools, reports, let's create a report. And this is going to be my budget. And we're going to look for windows first. We want to look for the just the ID, maybe the ID of the window, which is ID label. We'll add that. We want the width and the height. The width and the height. Width and the height. Add that. I forgot to add the width. Width, add that, and I want the width first. So I got the width and the height, so I just have three things I'm counting, and we go OK. Let's place this on a drawing. Click, and there it is. Oh, because I've rotated my view, haven't I? So that's my worksheet there, and you can see it's got really heavy lines on it. So let's double click to open that, and why has it got heavy lines? Because of my attributes palette. If you have a look here, that's my worksheet. This is my attributes palette. Let's give that 0.18 lines so it's a little bit easier to read. It's got solid white. We can give it no fill if you like. Or we can give it a solid. Let's give it sort of a pinky color and semi-opaque. Now the only way that I can adjust the column width is to open that worksheet window and then start to make adjustments. I'm going to leave those a bit because we're going to count hardscapes and stick them in here next. So let's see how we do that. So these are my hardscape objects. So we're going to use that same technique. So we're going to go Tools, Reports. Let's create a report. This time we're going to look for hardscape. Hardscape. The object is a hardscape. There it is there. We're going to select records from a hardscape. So we need to know what do we really need to know? Whatever you want. So we could have the area. We could have the name first. There's a hardscape name, instance name. Let's add that. They may all have the same name. They might all be called steps. The next thing we might want is the area. Area. Now we've got the border area and the area, we've got the main area and we have the border area. These may not have a border, so we don't need to report that. We've got the main area. We got the main area component, perimeter. We got the main area unit price as well. So we could add that and get the price from each of these objects. Now, before we go ahead, I was just about to click OK. But what we'd like to learn is how to attach one worksheet to the next. We append these, and I can append this to my budget, I called it. There it is there. And I can append this to any of my existing worksheets. So you can see what it's done now. It's actually put the two things together. I've got my windows, and then I've got my hardscape, and I've got the two things joined together. Now, this is a funny example, I understand that. But this is a way that you can create a detailed budget, particularly if you're a landscaper. You can look for landscape areas, you can look for plants, hardscapes, curbs, anything you'd like. And the great thing about doing reporting in Vectorworks is that you can also get it to report things that you attach information to. And this is something that I love doing in Vectorworks, is that ability to attach information to objects. I'm not going to cover it today. We'll cover that another day, the idea of attaching information. But the idea is that you can create a record format. You can make that record format record anything you want. The other day I did one on, one of my classes online. We looked at something people wanted to know how to attach information. So I just grabbed a barbecue symbol and I attached information to that barbecue symbol that allowed me to include that in the budget price for the client. So if I put one of those barbecue units in now, so if I grab one and I then updated it, it's in my library. So if I grab that barbecue out of my library, I can use my record format to report the number of them and how much each one costs. Also, if you want, I think we added the manufacturer, the manufacturer's phone number, who's the local supplier, and you can then create a report that makes it real easy for you to find that information, use the information, as I said, phone up the number. You could attach the website to that object as well if you wanted, so that you could then open up the worksheet, click on the worksheet, and get access to the website. It's very cool. So those are the main ways of doing things. So if we go back and we have a look at this one here. So let's go back and have a look. So let's go back to our cover sheet. So here are my reports. Maybe these make sense now. So when I double click on this, it opens my worksheet window. There it is there. And if we have a look, so this is my database header, and it found 28 drawings. So let's have a look here. Right click, let's have a look at my report. I used advanced criteria. So here I actually used advanced criteria. Now all criteria have to be met, which means it has to comply with everything here. So first of all, it has to be a title block, otherwise it doesn't show up. And it has to have a field value. So again, that's important. So it has to do both of these things. And it has to have a field value of less than 40. Now that means that if I've got a drawing and the drawing number is 39, it will show up in this list. If the drawing number is 40, it won't. And it tells me down here how many I've got. 28 I've found. Let's have a look at this worksheet. So this worksheet is really similar. In fact, I duplicated it. I copied one, made a duplicate of it, and I went here and I changed the report. So I went to the edit here, and I changed this from less than to greater than or equal to 40. So one is less than 40, and one is equal, greater than, or equal to 40. And so you've got a lot of flexibility when you create these. You can have very specific criteria. You can make sure that the title block starts with a certain name, or in this case, I just need the number. But it finds, it's a title block, finds the sheet number, this finds the title, and this finds the current revision number. And so this allows me to have these worksheets that automatically find all the drawings. If I update a drawing, it automatically updates in my worksheet. So whenever I print this set of drawings, when I publish them with the publish command. These are automatically up to date. I can go to site and I know exactly what drawings the contractor should have and what the latest drawings are. So I'm not going to cover too much more of this, I don't think. There's a lot of these that I can do. That's the site plan, framing plan. Let's go back to the site plan. Let's have a look at this one here. I don't know if we've got any chat, have we? I don't see any live chat yet. So this worksheet, it found the natural paving, so I actually had it find things on specific classes. It found the grass area. It found the area called permeable paving, the northern area of natural vegetation, and the roof area. And because of the way that this sets up and finds those things on the classes, if you adjust the shape of this paving area, this will adjust. And so it's always live to your design. You don't have to calculate this again. Once you've set these up, you don't have to worry about it. It will go back and find those areas for you. Really fantastic. So I think that's all I want to cover today. There's a lot that I could cover. I'm actually creating a course for Worksheets. I can't remember how many lessons there'll be in it, but there'll be several lessons in this worksheet. I was asked by my clients, by my community, to go ahead and make a worksheet course. So I've started doing that. If you're a member of my community, I'll put a link in the description and we can have a look at that another day. But I'm going to put a link in the description, and so I've started making worksheets, which is why we're covering it today. I wanted to introduce worksheets to you. And if you want to learn more, go to my community and become a member. There's a lot of stuff going on in my community. I'm really amazed at how active it is. I'm just going to bring up my classroom. So there it is here. So this is my community here. This is what I'm doing. I'm just working on this new course at the moment, the Worksheets course. And so these are all the courses that are available. It's a really active community. You can see someone's been online already this morning. So these are the things that are in there, and I hope you join. Thanks for coming. If you've come to watch live, I really appreciate it. It's really early in the morning for me, and it's lovely to see some people that are enjoying it. If you're watching this, this is the recorded version. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for getting through to this point, and I hope you like what you see and you like the way I do it. Become a member. The people that are members, really happy. They really love the way that I run this community. So thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later.